Now they will know why they are afraid of the dark. Now they will learn why they fear the night.
In an age of blockbusters, audiences were gripped by fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the obscure. Until one man showed them there was nothing to fear. Cinephobia. Welcome, ghouls and ghoulettes, to the Cinephobia podcast, part of the YouTube channel Cinephobia, where there's nothing to fear but film itself. Today, in our second episode of the cast, we delve deep into the newly released flick Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, discussing the film, the role the Manson family plays in the story and pop culture today, as well as serial killers and violence in modern-day cinema. All right, folks, we're going to be delving deep into the rabbit hole in this episode, so hold on to your pigtails, Alice. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I'm your host, JP. Joining us today to dissect it all is fellow cinephile and horror aficionado, Jesus Pinedo, writer and audio engineer. Thanks for joining us today, Jesus.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and also joining us to lend her perspective on the film is true crime enthusiast and my partner in film going, Miss Estella.
Hello.
Now, let's start off in ground zero, where this whole discussion stems from, and that's movie director Sergio Leone rising from the grave in order to direct his final film in the Once Upon a Time trilogy. It started off with Once Upon a Time in the West, and then it continued Once Upon a Time in America, and now directed posthumously Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is amazing. This is some amazing stuff right here. I really can't believe that he pulled this off. Did they? I wonder if they're going to give him an Oscar. They give Oscars to directors who direct dead. I don't know. Is that a thing or?
Wait, what are you talking about, dude?
Leone. He's finishing off his trilogy. You know, they dug him up. Now he's behind the camera. He's directing it. It's amazing stuff.
No, it's Tarantino, dude.
It's
Tarantino.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure it's not Sergio Leone, the director?
No,
Spaghetti
last
Westerns?
I checked,
he's finishing it off.
Last I checked, his grave was intact. I mean, no one has touched it or anything.
All right. I guess I got my information.
Tarantino's gone on the record of saying that I have made that movie.
I guess I should have did
He
a
took
little
it to
bit.
Cannes, dude.
All right. I should have did a little bit more research before this episode. I'm sorry. Let's just go ahead and start this all over again. We kick it off with discussion of Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, his ninth film. Although technically it's his 10th film because he actually made a movie before Reservoir Dogs in 1987 called My Best Friend's Birthday, which was apparently partially destroyed in a fire, but you can find parts of it online. So
Oh, shit, really?
that always kind of confused me. Yeah, you can find parts of it online. It's I didn't know about that either, but I don't know.
Neither
Maybe
did I, dude.
it's a good marketing ploy. But whatever the case is, it's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's one of his films, and it's out there, and it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we're here to talk about it all. Now, let's start off with where did you first see the film, Jesus?
Well, much like any other Tarantino fan, I tried to get a ticket at the New Bev, but it sold out within the first minute.
Of course.
So I had no choice but to watch it at the Cinerama Dome.
Cinerama Dome
Yeah.
over on in Sunset in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. 70 millimeter, man.
What better place to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood than in Hollywood
Exactly.
on 70 millimeter film? Although it was shot on 35,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've already seen it on 70. You also seen it on 35.
Yeah, I saw it twice at the New Bev, like 2 weeks after it came out.
So after tickets came available again, they had some more showings. You were able to get in. You finally saw it at the New Bev.
Mhm.
So which one do you prefer, the 70 millimeter or 35? Or no difference?
Honestly, I love the Cinerama Dome. I think 70 millimeter was the best aspect to watch it in. I know that Tarantino got a lot of flack for filming The Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter. Because obviously, that movie takes place all in one cabin.
One confined little space.
Exactly.
Doesn't
yeah.
really make a whole lot of sense to have
Yeah.
that big of a scope. Yeah.
So at least with this movie, I mean, we were able to get the scope of Los Angeles back in the 1960s. I mean, 70 millimeters just
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Just pops off the screen.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have some extra stuff at the New Bev screening of the movie.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, they have like Rick Dalton episodes.
Yeah, they had a Rick Dalton episode, and they showed trailers from the 1960s.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's a treat. I mean, honestly, I would recommend if you're able to go to New Bev to watch it. Check it out. Yeah.
I want to get the T-shirts that they have there, the Spawn Movie Ranch shirts.
Yeah,
Those seem pretty dope.
Dude, they even have candy from the 1960s. Like, they really want you to subvert yourself in the environment of the 1969 there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like made in the 60s?
Exactly.
Or...
Candy from the 60s, soda from the 60s, everything's from the 60s.
Was it made recently, or was it they just pulled it out of a crate and it was like it's been sitting there since the 60s? Like
no, it's just replication, obviously.
Oh, it's right. Okay, yeah. So it's still edible. It's still edible. It hasn't expired. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah, I'd definitely love to check it out there sometime. Estella, we saw it together, and we saw it at the Cinerama Dome as well on 70 millimeter, which was a treat.
Really nice theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sold out crowd almost. They held the movie up for like 15 minutes for more people can come in, which really pissed me off.
Yeah, me too, actually, because I went at 11 p.m. showtime, and it's already late as it is, so we had to wait like an extra 10 minutes to watch it.
Let's go ahead and delve into your opinions of the film. Jesus, let's start off with you. Overall thoughts?
Fucking loved it.
Fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Favorite Tarantino film?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's definitely maybe top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah.
Dead or Alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's the top one?
Pulp Fiction, obviously.
Pulp Fiction, okay.
Yeah.
Classic.
I know, I mean, yeah, it's just standard. Everybody says Pulp Fiction, but I don't know. It's just, I mean, it is Tarantino at his height. It's like, this is what I can do, and watch me, look at me, see what I can do for you in the future.
Yeah.
That's basically what Pulp Fiction.
Once Upon a Time. Of course, I loved it. I thought it was a great film.
Yeah.
Filmmaking style, seeing old Hollywood and the production design, the lighting.
It is different from his other films. I think that it's, he really tried to do something really different in this film as opposed to his other ones.
How so?
Well, for one thing, it is basically a film of just characters just hanging out, just, there's
Yeah.
really no incoherent plot to it, really.
There really isn't.
There really isn't, yeah.
It just kind of, some people have said it's like a movie about nothing. It's kind of like Seinfeld a little bit. It just kind of meanders through a little bit until we get to the final conclusion, and then at that point, then it all kind of comes to a head and something's actually
Something actually happens at the end, yeah.
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 But still, it was fun following these characters around
Yeah.
and, delving into their lives and getting lost in the whole magic of old 1969 Hollywood and how it looked and the cars and the people and all that stuff, even though there was that undercurrent of sinisterness, underlying, which was about to change America, at that point, which was alluded to throughout the film a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of that in the film, and I think like it's bits and pieces. He doesn't give it to you right up front. It's just little pieces fed to you throughout the whole entire movie. And I think throughout the whole entire movie, you're just dedicated to following Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio's characters around because they're just so fucking awesome. I mean, Brad Pitt is like the epitome of coolness. I mean,
they're
you just
so
want to be like him and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, they're just extremely likable, man. I mean, I think that had the movie just been both of them just interacting with each other and just going about their day to day, it would have still been an interesting movie.
Is this the first movie they starred in together?
I think so, yeah. I hadn't seen anything with them before.
Good cast.
We need a sequel. Quentin, are you listening?
Yes.
Because, or somebody cast these two in another movie again.
Dude, yeah.
Sure.
They have good chemistry together, honestly.
They do. I thought they would be
Yeah.
best friends.
They are best friends. That's technically the movie. Well, I mean, the movie is about these two best friends just like, just navigating their way through Hollywood back in the old days and stuff.
I mean, I really wonder how the relationship was between them on set, given that they're the two biggest Hollywood actors.
They are. They're literally the two biggest stars
And
of our generation.
I don't know I wonder if egos clashed, because who's the bigger guy? Who has the lead? Who's the top billing in this movie?
Well, I would say Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously. That dude's been in Titanic. I mean, you can't top that.
What? No. Okay, we're not going to get started.
All right, yeah,
Oh,
we'll get into
The
the debate
Brad
about
Pitt
that.
is-
One thing I like to point out that I really liked in the film was the cinematography by Robert Richardson, who has done a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, all of them since
Pretty much,
the
yeah.
first Kill Bill,
Yeah.
the first Kill Bill film.
Uh-huh.
He's also worked with Scorsese a lot. He did the lighting on Casino. He also did the lighting on Wall Street. He's worked with Oliver Stone a lot. He's did the lighting on JFK, Natural Born Killers, kind of harsh overhead lights. It looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think my favorite parts of the film were every time someone drove in a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
around Hollywood. I fucking love that.
And that was really.
I think a lot of people, I mean, would have been like, "Oh, we didn't need that," but no, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's a way to capture the scope of Hollywood in the 1960s. You see Brad Pitt just driving through Sunset Boulevard, and
That
you
freedom.
see the way how it all looks. I mean, how he transformed basically modern day Hollywood to Hollywood back in those days and stuff, and it's just impressive as hell. Because I mean, I think any other filmmaker would have just CGI'd the shit out of all those scenes. I
Yeah.
mean,
Fincher
yeah,
definitely would have.
yeah. But Tarantino's like, nah, I'm gonna just close down all of Sunset Boulevard and transform it to 1969 because I'm Tarantino. I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, when you're QT, you can do pretty much anything.
Pretty much. I mean, he does stuff in this film that I don't think anybody else would be allowed to do, especially the ending.
Now, I don't know if this is
Yeah.
something that you want to discuss, Jesus, but you had some role in the production of this film.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say directly. I mean, somewhat.
Somewhat.
Claim it,
Still,
claim
claim it. No.
No, I mean,
Own
I
it,
work
own it,
in
baby.
location management for JCL. They basically are the ones who have to close down the streets for them to be able to shoot those scenes. So obviously, they shut down Sunset Boulevard for almost a whole day, I believe, which cost them like
Mhm.
a large amount of money that I can't really disclose.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, I wasn't directly involved with it. I did handle like paperwork behind it and stuff, but I never actually went on to the actual set and stuff. I mean, a lot of my coworkers did, and they all kept coming back in the office and say like, "Oh my god, I just saw Brad Pitt and stuff," and I was like, "Fuck, man, I'd love to be on that set." I mean, location management, not necessarily what I want to do, but it's kind of cool. I mean, it gives you kind of an insight into the business, how it kind of works.
Yeah, that's awesome.
More of the, I guess I'm not gonna say the boring aspect of filmmaking, but more of like the tedious like chore
Yeah.
work of
All
filmmaking.
the
Like
technical stuff.
someone has to close down those streets. Someone has to get the permits.
Yeah.
Someone has to hire somebody to go out there and keep pedestrians from going on the set.
Yeah.
That's basically what I do. I mean, my full-time job. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Now, were you invited to come onto the set to direct traffic or to put signs up? Or
I would have loved to have asked my boss for it, honestly. But they were secretive about it. I mean, it wasn't even called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It was going under a different name, so I had no idea about it.
What was the name it was going under?
I have no idea. I mean, I haven't asked my manager yet. I don't dare. I mean, I wouldn't dare ask him because I mean,
They typically do that with big
Yeah,
films.
with
that are
big films,
shooting,
yeah.
though, just so they can hide
Yeah.
the fact that it's like,
I think it was Green Terrace or something like that, because I recall getting one of the production assistants coming to my business and stuff, and they were asking for products. Obviously, they got to wear like location vests,
Yeah.
orange vests so trucks don't hit them and stuff,
Yeah.
And he mentioned like, I'm here for an order for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like, really? It's like, oh no, it's Green Terrace or something. Like that. Yeah, like he wasn't supposed to say the name, but he said the name.
And
Yeah.
they later killed him. He was found in,
Exactly,
in
yeah.
a freezer.
Well,
on the
he
back
probably
body
never
of
got
a
hired
vehicle.
again. Well, I mean, I haven't disclosed it yet, and just now. I mean, this is the first time I'm saying it. Yeah. So,
Poor bastard.
yeah,
God
poor
rest his
bastard.
soul.
Yeah.
One other thing, one thing that I did not like about the film that I kind of like to point out, and this is a problem that I also had with partially with the Hateful Eight, and this is this unnecessary voiceover that just suddenly pops into the film.
Mhm.
We start off with the small voiceover from, I think, Brad Pitt about 5 minutes into the film
Yeah.
or so.
By the way, we're talking about spoilers, just
We're talking about spoilers.
in case anybody listens to this. podcast.
Spoilers throughout. Spoilers throughout
Yeah.
the film. In case you didn't know, this is a podcast.
Yeah.
We're talking about a movie. If you didn't
We're
know,
gonna go in depth.
then now you do.
We will. Yeah.
So Brad Pitt pops in with this voiceover explaining why Leonardo DiCaprio can't drive. He's had a DUI, he was drunk, had an
Yeah.
accident, this sort of thing. So we pop in with that. So we're kind of set up in the film to believe we're going to have some voiceovers coming in, sprinkled here or there by Brad Pitt, if not some other characters.
Yeah, we have it at least twice in the movie, right? It was only 2 times I've had a
It
voiceover,
happened there
right?
5 minutes in, and then about
The ending. near the end.
3/4 of the way through,
Yeah.
right before the ending of the film, it popped in again. This time by a separate character, and
Yeah.
this was the stunt guy Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Kurt
Oh yeah,
Russell
Kurt
came in
Russell was one who did the
with
voiceover.
with the second voiceover.
Yeah.
2 hours after the
Yeah.
original voiceover comes in
That was confusing.
to start explaining why Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are traveling over to Italy to do these spaghetti westerns and the success he had over there,
Mhm.
and this actress that he met, and now they're breaking up. Him and Brad Pitt, they can't have this relationship anymore, so now they have to part ways.
Yeah.
A lot of exposition right there, all thrown in. Kind of at an odd place, I felt like. So that really threw me for a loop, took me out of the movie a little bit. They did a similar thing in Hateful Eight, where middle of the movie, all of a sudden, Quentin Tarantino himself pops in with the voiceover of a lot of exposition, which I feel, please don't bar me from the New Bev for saying this, is somewhat lazy storytelling, I felt like. And nobody else probably could have gotten away with that if it wasn't a Quentin Tarantino script.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. I think I agree with you partially on that, but at the same time, I'm thinking like, how would Tarantino have been able to convey those scenes without the voiceover?
Right.
And maybe a montage. I mean, he could have done a montage, maybe, especially
Montage
at the
might have
ending
worked.
when he does the movies in Italy.
Or just keep it consistent. You
Yeah.
know, just have it all throughout the film. I
Mhm.
mean, not that it would have worked all throughout the film.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe just find another creative way in order to convey that information.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he was just pressed for time at that moment. He's like, "Oh shit, I got to figure out how to explain the fact that he went to Italy and did all these movies and stuff." You know?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it kind of worked for Hateful Eight though, because I mean, in that movie, I mean, there's an intermission.
Yeah. Right.
So it kind of cuts after one scene, and then I guess someone is kind of trying to explain to you what's going on after that major event that happened in the first half of the film.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But for the director himself to pop in and do the voiceover, not a character in the actual film, the director who the audience already knows his voice, what he sounds like, what he talks like.
I think it's because it's Tarantino. He could get away with it. I'm just thinking right now. Yeah. I'm thinking like if Gone with the Wind had done that, remember when they have their intermission and then they kind of come back in and then maybe Victor Fleming's like, okay, so Scarlett O'Hara, now she has to do this and this and stuff.
It's like, what the fuck?
But it's Tarantino.
What is going on here? Yeah, it's another thing that just totally took me out of the movie. I'm like, oh, I am no longer in a cabin in the Old West. I am now in modern day times listening to a director do a partial DVD commentary for me.
Exactly,
So that was kind of odd. One thing that I did felt like was the film was a little long. It could have been shorter in some spots. It was 2 hours and 45 minutes. It was total runtime, I believe. And one thing that I like to point out is some people have mentioned that his longtime editor, Sally Menke, I think is her name, who was the editor on pretty much all of his films up until The Hateful Eight. She tragically passed away in 2010. She was hiking in Griffith Park, or Rugged Park over there, and they found her the next day dead from heat exhaustion. It was one of the hottest days on record. Her Labrador Retriever was actually standing next to her body. He was badly dehydrated and all that stuff. Very tragic story.
Yeah.
Very, very, very sad. So, but apparently she was a person who really tried to rein Quentin in terms of run times and sort of, you got to cut this scene. You might love this scene, but we got to take it out, sort of thing. So I felt like if she was definitely editing this film, it probably would have been shorter. It would have been a little bit tighter. But then again, his films are all long, and
yeah, of course. I mean, I kind of slightly disagree with you. I mean, I understand that. I mean, it does drag on a little bit, especially in the beginning. I mean, I think in the few scenes where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like doing his own scenes from the television show, and it kind of like blends it in, makes it look like we're actually watching the TV show. Then it cuts back when one of the characters says "cut," and I don't know. I mean, I think like to me, I mean, it was kind of part of the appeal that we got to see all those scenes and stuff. It's just basically the film was really taking its time with establishing the environment and the characters,
Right.
And I don't think a lot of films actually would like to do that because I think the modern day audience obviously don't want to sit through all that. I mean, they just want to get to it. And I think honestly, if you were to watch it maybe a second time, it would probably go by faster. At least that's what I got from it.
Okay.
The second time that I saw it, I honestly went by really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at no point did I feel like, oh my God, I'm getting bored. This is taking too long. I really enjoyed the film all the way through, but it probably could have been a tighter film.
Exactly, yeah. You want to talk about, Margot Robbie's character? I think like some people were saying that, to save time on the film, he could have easily cut her character out and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Sharon Tate's character, really?
Yeah, Sharon Tate.
No, now that you're saying it, yeah. I mean, all the scenes with her didn't really play a pivotal part other than just showing, oh, this is Sharon Tate. Oh, my God, she's going to get murdered. Oh, look at this beautiful, talented girl. She's about to become a star. But then she doesn't get killed. So
Exactly. I think like she does play a pivotal role and to some degree in the movie. I think that if you know about the Manson murders, obviously you know that eventually when we get to August, I believe the August 9th or whenever the date was, she will, be murdered and stuff. So I think much like the Inglourious Basterds, I mean, we think it's going to go in this certain direction. Okay. We think that history is going to be told exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
But instead, Tarantino subverts our expectations,
Okay, so you felt it was a subversion of expectations.
I thought that's what it was. I mean, I honestly, if you're a Tarantino person, I mean, obviously you're going to know that he's not going to stick to historically exactly what happened. He's going to go off the grid. And he really does. But I think for a certain audience, I mean, they're going to think that Sharon Tate's about to be killed. How is it going to happen in the ending? You did?
I definitely was going the whole movie thinking, oh, it's all leading up to a Manson family murder at the Tate house. And And it did get gruesome.
It really did, yeah. The ending.
It went balls to the wall
But
with
you were
it.
expecting it, I guess, against, Sharon Tate and her friends. You weren't expecting
Exactly.
it. Because, when the murderers walked into the house and the dog was looking at them, I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. So when the dog lunged at them, I was like, oh, shoot.
It just went completely haywire. 180 degrees somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was totally thrown for a loop. And I mean, I guess some audiences, Quentin Tarantino fans probably could have or did expect the ending based on Inglourious Bastards and how they changed history with killing Hitler and the Nazis.
This is where I think that the movie differs from other of Tarantino's movies. Throughout the whole entire film, it really is a movie about just characters hanging out. Like the whole entire movie has this not necessarily narrative or plot, but it's just a series of just hangout events that are happening between Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. They're just hanging out, talking about where his career is going and stuff.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's great to watch.
And then last 20 minutes, all that shit just hits the fan out of nowhere. Tarantino's movies notoriously have all these violent scenes throughout the whole entire film.
In that regard, it did feel a little tacked on, but I mean, at the end...
It just comes out of left field. It really does.
It does. But then at the end, you saw that Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, finally got the entrance. The Golden Gates opened up for him, and now he's apparently going to be opening up to a larger role in films as leading man. Mm-hmm. And, it was a great thing to see. I would have loved to see, maybe a little aftermath.
Yes.
Me too.
What happened with Sharon Tate? Did she win an Oscar later on? Did Roman Polanski not end up going to?
See, now that's where the voiceover would come in handy.
There you go.
I joked around with my friends who I watched it with at the New Bev and at the Cinerama Dome that it would have been funny had the film ended and then we cut back to Rick Dalton's character appearing in Chinatown. They implement him.
Oh, that would have been sick.
They implement him in the movie. Take off Jack Nicholson and put
especially
Rick
since
Dalton
they did that with him in The Great Escape, right?
Yeah, exactly. They could have done that.
Put Leonardo DiCaprio.
In the movie.
They CGI'd him into the old movie, The Great Escape, and they showed a clip of it in Once Upon a Time.
So now he's in Chinatown, and his career gets it revitalizes because of that.
Wow.
Because he met Polanski.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That would have been an awesome idea.
Exactly.
That would have been a great way to cap it off.
Yeah, I thought about that. It's like, God damn it, Tarantino, you could have done that.
So, yeah, let's talk about the gruesomeness of the ending, and what did you think about all that?
Well, it's technical Tarantino, it's just, when you go to see a Tarantino movie, you're expected to see crazy bullshit, stuff like that.
And there was really no violence or anything.
There really wasn't. It wasn't until the last 20 minutes.
Point,
yeah.
It just kind of just spewed it all at you.
Yeah. I think if you watch a movie like Kill Bill, obviously, like I said, you just see graphic stuff throughout, but this movie really saved all that stuff till the very end.
Now, do you felt it was too graphic? Do you felt that it went a little bit too far with this male character, Brad Pitt, slamming this female character's face
against a brick fireplace?
Against the brick fireplace, against the glass poster. What do you think?
I laughed my ass off throughout the whole entire scene because of how far-fetched it was. I think Tarantino has this thing where, he can make the most violent situations seem very far-fetched in a way. It's just so over the top in a way. Obviously, in real life, if that were to happen, that's pretty fucked up stuff. But I don't know, something about Tarantino, the way he makes these scenes, how he composes them, it just seems so ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, it was really odd because everybody in the audience that we went to go see too was laughing.
They just laughed at it. Yeah, it just came out of nowhere.
It's just I don't. It's such a violent, horrible thing going on.
Especially when freaking Leonardo DiCaprio takes out that flamethrower at the end.
Yeah,
you
just don't see that come out of nowhere.
Really?
It's like, what the fuck?
Throwing this girl in the water. She's already 3/4 dead. Oh my God.
I feel like maybe it was her screaming that made it funny throughout because we just have Brandy the dog.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody else's name.
Dude, the sweetest dog throughout the whole entire movie. And then right we get to the ending, he's suddenly an attack dog that just bites somebody in the balls.
Yeah, I think the sounds of the mauling and her just screaming the whole time like the most high-pitched scream. Yeah. I think that made it funny. But
that's the thing. He plays it for a farce. He doesn't really project it. If this wasn't a movie, this would just be a completely just violent scene of people getting horrifically murdered and stuff. But Tarantino plays it I don't know, some comedic, little, SNL parody in a way. Yeah, it comes across as an SNL parody.
It does.
Yeah. It's like you're the audience, you're in the SNL audience watching this really comical parody of the Manson, family in a way.
Yeah. And you're already kind of set up for the comedy with Brad Pitt smoking.
Exactly. No, you're laughing right off the bat because he's looking at the one guy. He's like, are you real? And he's like,
yeah.
And they're just both laughing at each other.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, smoking it. Oh, here we go. That's
Exactly,
that
yeah.
sort of thing. And it's just a very, very light tone, even though something bad's gonna happen.
It's the way he edits it. I mean, we know this is a comedy scene. We're laughing right at the beginning because obviously Brad Pitt's high as fuck, and just DiCaprio's drinking his his alcoholic drinks in the pool.
Yeah.
But I guess they were all on LCD, right? LSD.
Not all of them.
LSD. Yeah, I know.
Just Brad Pitt.
They didn't have LCD screens back then. Actually,
they were all on LSD though, I guess, because the Manson family, I'm sure they were high.
Oh, they were high as fuck on.
And then he smoked that acid-laced cigarette.
Also, they're all just fucked up. Just ready to kill each other.
Drunk,
and shit.
high, yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think that's the trademark that Tarantino has. His violent scenes are to the excess that they seem almost unrealistic.
Uh-huh.
I think if you watch a movie like Kill Bill, like where that the bride chops off one of the girls' like arms off, and it's just like blood just spurts out like crazy, like beyond because human beings only have like 2 liters of blood, right?
Yeah.
This lady's just like bleeding gallons of blood all over the place and stuff when her arm gets cut off by a samurai sword. The same with like when Marvin gets shot in the face. I mean, just like shots and like just all over the fucking back of the car. So I think he stylized it in a way which makes it like it is graphic, but it's not realistic, honestly.
Tarantino has definitely perfected the art of violence.
Yeah.
In film, much as the way Martin Scorsese has.
Exactly. I think he's right on the thin line. He has found the thin line between, what is considered untasteful and considered like entertaining, I guess.
And that's a tough thing to do.
Exactly.
That's a really tough thing to do.
He could easily go beyond both sides. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go ahead and delve on to the next topic about Manson and why the Manson family in the movie. We already kind of talked about it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I did want to ask. I mean, because Manson doesn't really play an important part in the movie at all, really.
He doesn't. You only see him once?
He's only once in the film, yeah.
He was supposed to be in Santa Barbara or something at the time, right?
Exactly. No, yeah. Brad Pitt's character shows up to Spawn Ranch, and then he doesn't get to meet Charlie. Charlie's somewhere else.
Right.
And I kind of wondered, I mean, what was the purpose of having Manson in the movie?
I mean, I guess you had to show him at least once.
Well, I mean, they did show him once.
They showed him in the trailer, and you kind of thought he might be in there more.
Yeah, you thought he was going to be more in there. Yeah,
maybe they didn't want to give him, like, I don't know, any credit. I mean, granted, like, everybody knows who he is across the world. But maybe Tarantino was like, no, I don't want to make this well, I guess it is about him with the Manson family, but, like, we're not going to put him in there, maybe.
Yeah.
We don't want to put him on the big screen. We didn't want to give him a platform. I guess you're giving the Manson family a platform. But
in a way, yeah, the family's there. Yeah. Yeah, in a way, I mean, I think it really, it plays a major role to some degree. I mean, I think people will say that, it wasn't really necessary. It was just for that last 20 minutes of the film. But it really does have an impact on the whole entire film in general. Because I think when the murders happened in 1969, actually it's been 50 years now. I mean, this week it's been 50 years since the murders took place.
This week, 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. They were really impactful at the time. I mean, 1969, I mean, at that time, I think we were still in the hippie generation, the free love and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just this horrific murders happened that just completely changed everything. It changed the outlook of Hollywood, of what we consider to be, this fantasy-like environment and stuff. And then all of a sudden, it just gets snuffed out with these two murders.
Just shattered by this horrific murder of these beautiful and rich and wealthy people.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, isn't what one of the girls from the Manson family said? She was like, these people, what did she say? These people have socialized us, I guess, or they have done such and such on TV, so let's kill TV. I can't remember exactly what she said in the movie. In the movie,
yeah. They taught us to kill.
Yeah, so we're going to kill them.
Yeah. And is that the actual reason why they went for Rick Dalton's house as opposed to the Sharon Tate house? Was because...
Well, because Rick Dalton comes out and obviously confronts them and stuff, so he kind of changes the course of history in a way, like by just like confronting them.
So that was the whole rationale. So they didn't accidentally go into the wrong house. They're just like, oh no, we're going to go into this house first.
Yeah, they changed their mind. It was like, oh, we're not going to go after,
Okay, I was a little confused about that.
Yeah. At first, that's what I thought, but then no, they were like, oh, this is our new plan. We're going to kill Rick Dalton because he taught us about violence. Yeah. It's rather interesting in a way because, I mean, I think it plays with a lot of the like as I said earlier, I mean, we're expecting it to end a certain way, but instead it ends this other way. Because, I mean, a lot of people will say, I mean, yeah, there was really no point to it. I mean, it could have just been just some any other random killers just coming in and, he would have just, Brad Pitt would have just beaten the shit out of them and killed them. But I think that Tarantino really plays with these themes of, like, belonging in modern day Hollywood in a way. Because, I mean, Rick Dalton is a product of old Hollywood in a way.
True.
And I think the reason why Sharon Tate is there is because she's a rising star. Her career's going up, so she's basically the new Hollywood. Yeah. So, in a way, I think Tarantino's kind of making this love letter to the 1960s, where he's trying to say that old Hollywood can exist along with new Hollywood, which is why Sharon Tate stays alive at the end.
Wow, that was really poignant, Jesus. Did you just come up with that?
Yeah, thought about it.
That's a pretty good abstract point. I like that point.
Yeah,
It's different.
I do. I think that's a really astute observation.
It's a themes of relevance, I think, because Rick Dalton keeps saying like, "Oh, I'm a has-been. I don't belong in Hollywood anymore," and
That's
stuff.
true. That's true.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't want to do westerns, because he feels like, "Oh, when I do westerns, that's the end of my career. It's not gonna go anywhere anymore."
And it seems like his career paralleled Eastwood's a lot in a way.
In a way, yeah, because
it was partially, his character was partially based on Clint Eastwood, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because he ended up going to Italy and did a lot of spaghetti westerns.
Exactly, yeah.
And then he kind of became a little bit famous from that. And then he came back to America.
But yeah, I think that there's some parallels to be seen in the film in a way. I think that's the reason why he has all those scenes with Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate's obviously, she's going to watch her own movies. She's seeing audience enjoy the movies because there are these fantasy elements about, she's doing martial arts with Bruce Lee and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And Rick Dalton is obviously this character who's like, my career's ending and stuff. And I think that at least when living next to Sharon Tate, I got my second chance at,
right,
moving into the new version of Hollywood.
Exactly. Yeah. I felt like her character could have been a little bit more fleshed out.
It could have, yeah.
Because you saw her and she was just, kind of this
just hanging out,
bubbly, happy,
partying with her husband, and just watching her
carefree
movies,
gal,
showing off her feet, her dirty feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to, I guess, what we were talking about earlier about the parallels of like both the career of Sharon Tate and the career of Rick Dalton. I think at that time, obviously remember like when Rick Dalton says like, "Oh, I'm living next to the director of Rosemary's Baby."
Yeah.
It really was like, this emergence of New Hollywood. New Hollywood obviously started around the 1970s, I believe. Well, late 1960s to the early 1970s. Yeah, Easy Rider. Rosemary's Baby was obviously one of the first ones to start it. It was these pretty gloomy movies that really depicted life as being really depressing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Rick Dalton was really of the romanticized like westerns of like an homage to Bonanza, right? Am I pronouncing that right? Clint Eastwood's old TV show Bonanza. Bonanza, yeah. Yeah.
It seemed like it was a little bit more based on the show Rawhide.
But yeah, it was really just, I think, like these two different type of films interacting with each other. It was realism versus romanticism in a way, because Sharon Tate's that movie she did with Dean Martin, I believe.
The Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew, yeah. Yes. She's watching that movie in the theaters, and it's really this like over the top like fantasy like adventure type of movie and stuff. And it's obviously meant to parallel with kind of like the darkness of what Hollywood is now at that time. At least with the reality, not so much with the films, because obviously by the 1970s we started getting these other different type of movies.
Whereas in the 60s you were seeing more beach blanket bingo, you were seeing, musicals.
Spaghetti westerns and stuff. Just like, these movies that seem like over the top.
Which is a bygone genre now,
fantasy.
Westerns.
In a way, yeah. In a way they become that, yeah.
Just like Rick Dalton,
Yeah.
He is a bygone actor.
He's a bygone actor, yeah.
Genre.
He wants to adapt to the new modern Hollywood. I think that's what his goal of the movie. What's the ultimate goal of the movie? Because we think that maybe Rick Dalton doesn't have really a goal like every standard character in any movie.
Yeah.
But his goal is to be relevant. I want to exist in Hollywood, even though it's changing to something else that it isn't. So I think when we get to all those crazy scenes at the end, where like they're both killing off these Manson characters who were originally meant to kill Sharon Tate and end the fantasy elements of the 1960s.
Yeah.
In a way, old Hollywood is really what ends up saving new Hollywood.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. So do you think that's the point of the film?
I think that really is the point of the film. In a way, he's trying to say that we can have both. We can have our our indie and our auteur movies, but we can also have the Marvel movies.
Yeah. And actually, did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? It didn't open up at number one. It opened
up at number two, next to Lion King.
Lion King.
Still made good business.
Wow. Wow.
That is a big wow.
But it still made good money. I think that's the power of Tarantino. It's that people can go watch the movie just based off the fact that it's a Tarantino movie and not so much a franchise or a sequel.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really liked about the film is that in the middle of blockbuster season right now, where you're seeing a lot of tentpole films, you're seeing a lot of sequels, reboots, superhero films. You have an original film coming out with an original story, and people are going to go see it. Even though it did open at number two, I think that's a win for independent cinema. Even though it's not an independent film by any means, but original films. And that's what we need more of, I think, in cinema, and those are the stories that
really reach out to people and really make an impact on people's lives. Hopping off my soapbox now.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think A24 is probably one of the pioneers that's really leading
Absolutely.
indie filmmakers to widely release their movies to audience.
Shout out A24.
Yep. I think let's switch gears and talk about. We just saw a scene from Manson Family,
Oh my God.
2003.
Wow.
Give me your thoughts on that scene. I mean, I think it was a really hard scene. I mean, before we started this podcast, I wanted to show these guys this other movie called Manson Family in 2003, directed by Jim Van Bieber. It's an interesting film in a way. I think it kind of, whereas Once Upon a Time was more of like a fictional fairy tale like version of the Manson murders.
Yeah.
Manson Family kind of depicts, I guess, the realism of it all. I mean, the viciousness and the brutality of the murders.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, because we saw the
Very
scene where
brutal.
Sharon Tate and her friends get killed.
Yeah, we saw that scene. I saw the trailer beforehand.
We didn't see the R-rated version because I thought that I had, downloaded the the R-rated version, but it turns out we had downloaded the unrated
I
version,
know you
which
did
was.
that on purpose.
I did not do that on purpose. I
Trying to
swear.
scar us.
Because the first time I saw that movie, I saw the R-rated version with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first time I saw those two movies together,
Wow.
Very
and
bloody.
really fucked up
Double
a
feature.
double feature in my opinion.
Oh my God.
And I think at the time when I saw that movie, I thought that it was just too over the top, and
Yeah.
that director was, just doing everything in excess.
Yeah.
But after, reading material on the Manson murders, watching documentaries and stuff, I realized that it was pretty truthful in its depiction of it all.
Seemed like he was just trying to get into the head and just the psyche of these people.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
And very artistic in the use of lighting.
Exactly.
Like you mentioned, it was a lot
Pretty
of
giallo.
giallo.
I mean, I think the director saw a lot of giallo Italian, horror slashers before he made this movie.
Anytime you saw somebody being stabbed, the lighting changed. You
To
saw
red.
a lot of oranges, reds, greens,
Yeah.
blues popping up and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it was very artistic in that regard. It wasn't
Yeah.
filmed as, this just super, super duper low budget, snuffy.
Super
sort of
grainy
film.
16 millimeter film and stuff, as opposed to like
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time, which is more
Yeah.
high budget, more technically pleasing to the eyes in
Big
a
time.
way. Yeah.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had some money behind that one. This one, they didn't have a dime. It
Oh
was-
yeah, they made this movie. They started making this movie in 1988. I recall reading on articles about the fact that the director just would, when he was in college, he took out he would use school loans to make movies instead of pay for his classes and stuff.
Wow.
So he ran out of money when he was making this movie, and he pieced together little pieces of the film. It wasn't complete. He would release it to several festivals in hopes to garner more money to finish it.
Oh my God.
So by the time it got to 2003, after showing it for several years and stuff, I think Dark Skies Production finally gave him money to finish it
Okay.
and give it its proper theatrical release.
Wow.
And
That's
the movie came out, and it got fairly positive reviews, actually, especially considering the fact it's a really violent movie.
Roger Ebert seemed to give it a
Yes.
pretty
Roger
positive
Ebert's
review.
review is pretty interesting because he kind of says in his review, it's a good movie, but I just can't recommend it,
Right.
to anyone.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. Let's just
It's not
say
for
that.
everybody. It's it's one of those movies that you give it its credit for the way it's made, but not so much for the material or the stuff that the movie's about.
Yeah.
It's the same way I can't necessarily recommend Clockwork Orange to anyone. I can't necessarily recommend The Exorcist to anyone, but I know they're great films. They're well made.
I would recommend The Exorcist to anybody. I mean,
Anyone?
especially
Yeah.
by today's standards, I
Really?
feel like, a lot of
I
people
don't.
might consider it pretty tame.
Yeah.
The scene where she's kind of, just stabbing herself with the crucifix. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
it's still pretty extreme.
That
but-
was dark, but it was funny.
Pretty
dark.
tame. Pretty
It was
tame.
funny
Okay.
dark.
All right, well, people
yeah, even
found
today's
comedy.
audiences might sort of laugh at this sort of thing. But yeah, this is just a whole different level. This is Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer hobo with the shotgun. You need to
Times
take a hot shower after you get done watching it because
No,
that's
you
how
really
ugly and
do.
dirty you feel.
I think
sort
we
of
only saw obviously 10 minutes of the movie, which obviously in itself, I mean, that stuff's pretty brutal.
Yeah,
But I mean, the whole movie as an entirety kind of reflects this notion that Manson had this ability to manipulate people into doing these really horrific things for him,
Mhm.
even to the present day. I mean, I think the spoiler alert for that movie. When we get to the ending, I mean, it kind of shows that modern day Los Angeles and stuff, people are still influenced to do really crazy stuff
Mm.
because of Manson. And
Oh really?
there's even to this day, I mean, there's still a couple of murders that are related to him.
Get out
Yeah.
of here.
People are
Yeah,
fucked up.
people. I mean, I've seen people wear those shirts at punk rock shows every once in a while, Manson shirt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know necessarily if it's kind of the style of it or just that they believe in the message. I mean, I don't know. But he does have this power over people to this very day in a way,
Yeah.
which is kind of scary. Yeah,
He is a pop culture icon, like it or not.
in a way, yeah, he has changed the way we see the world Because, I mean, obviously, yeah, the hippie generation was all about love and peace, and then Manson just came by and just fucked it up for everybody.
Yeah.
I think what you saw in that movie also, it's like, like how there's a scene where Sharon Tate picks up a hitchhiker. Like, she casually just picks up a hitchhiker on her way to do an errand.
Uh-huh.
And I think, like, nowadays, no one would ever fucking do that.
Hell no.
You're not going to pick up
back
some
then-
random stranger on the street?
Back then, I guess they used to do it all the time.
People
Exactly.
did hitchhike all the time.
Yeah. Or they would have open parties where anybody could come by, just like...
Man.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing I want to give the movie credit for, it's the fact that it depicts these characters as being the monsters that they are, that they did these horrible things.
Yeah.
Out of their own free will, in a way. Because, I mean, I think before we did this podcast, you were watching documentaries where they said, like, I'm a different person now from who I was. But, I mean, they legitimately did these things out of their own free will. They killed for Manson because they chose to. It wasn't that they were manipulated by this guy to do it.
I was going to say, literally, when we were watching the documentary, I'm all like, yeah, and the courts wouldn't even give them parole and blah, blah, blah. And then after watching that scene, I'm like, if the real scene happened, anything like that scene, I'm like, nah, fuck them people. Like, they can rot in jail. Because that was just really like, I feel like if you were able to do something that brutal, like, okay, killing somebody, yeah, you can be rehabilitated. But like killing somebody like that, I just
for no reason.
For no reason.
No reason at
all.
all.
There's a dark
just
evil inside of you, and I wouldn't want you outside of a fucking cage, like around me or anybody else.
But
Exactly.
Tex was the one that
that
delivered the fatal blows to pretty much
everybody he killed. But I think everybody else played a part in it in a way. Like I forget the name, but that one girl who held it down, Sharon Tate's arm, as she was getting stabbed. I mean, I think she had to take as much credit as much as Tex Watson for those murders. I think regardless, I mean, they were there. They could have intervened.
I mean, watching
stuff.
something like that and like not passing out or not throwing up or not even trying to help them or at least running away, I feel like that says a lot about
No, even the fact that she told her, like, I mean, I don't give a shit about you. You're going to die. That literally was what she told Sharon Tate before she died in real life.
It was?
She did literally tell her that. I don't give a fuck.
I thought she was going to say, I don't give a fuck about you or your baby. I was like,
yeah,
oh
exactly.
God,
She did tell her that. And that was something that's been used against her for every parole meeting. Like, these were the words you told her before you killed her. So why should we show you any mercy and release you? Didn't show any mercy to her.
I mean, at the same time, just to play devil's advocate, these were impressionable people who are on influence of drugs and a charismatic cult leader. I feel like if you look at the interviews of these women, it seems like they have definitely changed. It seems like they're very remorseful of their crimes.
I do encourage people to check those documentaries out because, I mean, I think it's one-sided to just see these two movies and just think that these guys are vicious killers.
At the end of the day, whatever happens, they're still going to stay in prison. They're not going to get parole. They're going to stay there.
No way at all.
There's no way they're ever going to let them out because of the infamy of the crime and public outcry if they ever are released.
Yeah.
So.
Where are they gonna go anyways? It's like you're gonna like move somewhere.
Well, one of them has already died, I think, in jail. So it's just two of them have died. Obviously, Manson died, and one of the girls. Yeah.
So there's still two left, and I think they try to fight for parole every chance they
Exactly.
get.
Yeah. Every 4 years
They're
they get
not
parole.
getting that, though.
No, it's never gonna happen. I think at least that's what I find effective about the movie. Any juror who ever saw that movie would know that. Yeah, I mean, maybe these guys are sorry, but the crimes are just too brutal to forgive.
So they're automatically biased. Yeah. Any juror, like, no, yeah, they're. Well, I guess when you go to a parole hearing, it's not with the jury. It's just with
it's not the jury. It's just, I mean, I guess what
just everybody's biased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I think, like, that's kind of why, obviously, Deborah Tate, I mean, the sister of Sharon Tate, she doesn't really like all these depictions of her sister being killed, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
There was 2 films released this year about
that's right.
Sharon Tate, I believe, and Deborah Tate was not too happy with them. I think she kind of wanted to sue them both. But for some reason, we know why. Yeah. We know why she kind of, like, approved Tarantino's version.
Right.
Because Tarantino kind of, he really, like, turns these, like, really vicious murders into, like, a farce in a way. Like, these guys get the comeuppance that they deserve in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is what everybody wishes would have happened.
Wishes would have happened,
This
yeah.
is what happened if, like, karma, worked all the time.
Exactly. If karma existed, these people would have gotten really brutally killed by Brad Pitt.
Yeah. And his dog.
And his dog, yeah.
Well, not only will they die in prison, they will live on in infamy by being murdered on film by Quentin Tarantino.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's kind of what Tarantino tries to do. It's the same thing he did with Inglourious Bastards, where it's like, Hitler. Let's make a farce out of the Nazi party and Hitler and all those characters. Here it's like, let's make these characters a farce as well.
Right.
Take away their infamy, take away the stuff that they did, like they mean nothing to history at all. That's why I think, like, he calls it Once Upon a Time, because it's some fairy tale.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a fictional depiction of, like, what we would like to see. It's like we want our characters to have happy endings in a way. And this movie kind of gives us that happy ending. Mm-hmm. it kind of takes away the realism of what we saw in Manson 2003 and replaces it with more optimistic like outlook on the future. Like things are going to be okay. Sharon Tate's going to have her baby. Rick Dalton's going to have his career come back. Everything's fine with the world. And maybe Polanski won't go. Polanski won't do all those crazy things that we could go in topic later on.
Let's hope not. Let's hope he doesn't.
I kind of wanted to take switch gears and talk about like
switch it up.
Switch it up. Because this is like the third Manson movie that came out this year in a way.
He's always like
50 years later, and people are still obsessed.
I mean, to be honest, like did he get what he wanted? Like he did, I guess.
He became infamous. I think that was his goal.
Like he was trying to get his music.
Well, no. His goal was to start a race war, actually.
Well, yeah, actually, it was shit.
But that shit never. It was just ecstasy and drug logic that they were just like, by killing these people, we're gonna start a race war and stuff,
And then his songs, which never really became famous, which he made, actually did gain, a little bit infamy later on. I think, maybe even some famous musicians might have covered them.
Guns N' Roses did a cover on a couple of his songs.
There you go.
Yeah. Which is kind of, I
wouldn't do that. I feel like that's...
There's a lot of heat that they received from the Tate family for doing that. And then this recent movie that came out, The Haunting of Sharon Tate, plays a lot of his music.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, The Haunting of
Sharon Tate. It's with Hilary Duff. It's like,
Have you seen it? Is it any good?
No, I don't want to watch it. I mean, from what I've heard, it's pretty bad. It's I'm not recommending it to anyone.
The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Yeah, but it's just done in so bad taste. I mean, these are, I think, in my opinion, these movies are literally exploiting these murders. I mean, honestly, that's what I think. I think at least when we saw the Manson family, it wasn't trying to necessarily, I don't know, make us like what we were watching. I mean, we do feel bad about seeing that stuff on the screen. Whereas, like, these other movies, I mean, they're just playing it for, like, horror movies, thrills, and, scares, and, like, little, like, jump scares and stuff like that. And I think, at least when we're watching a movie like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, or Silence of the Lambs, we're watching serial killers for what they really are.
Right.
You depict everything honestly. Don't, like, stylize it to make it a horror film with, like, cheap thrills and stuff, Yeah.
I agree.
Just present the subject as it is. I think Manson Family kind of does that. I mean, is it like hardcore, brutal stuff to watch? Yes, but it's honest. At least I can say that about it.
I mean, it is a fine line between depicting something in a real life way and treating it with respect and exploiting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it's something that takes those elements and uses it to make some other type of movie as opposed to what it really is, and that's where it's like I consider it exploitative in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I definitely feel like they approached it in a very artistic way that tried to
doesn't a
give
tasteful
a
manner.
new viewpoint on it.
Exactly. And I know that Tarantino gets a lot of flack for it because every time he releases a movie, there just seems to always be a controversy about, his films in a way. I recall, I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen that video where he released Kill Bill and he has that one interaction with that film critic who said that his film was too violent and he said, like, I recommend it for children and stuff. And critic, he's like, like, why would you depict such horrible, violent stuff? And then Tarantino says, like, because it's fun, Janice. But I think, like, she responds back by saying, like, how would you like it if someone just attacked you on the streets with a samurai sword and stuff? And then Tarantino, I think, like, he eloquently responded back, well, now you're fucked up because, I mean, you're talking about real life. Mine is just a fantasy. Mine is just a movie.
Right.
Just a depiction of excessive violence that doesn't really merit any, like, existential purpose in real life in a way. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're all fascinated by it in a way. I think we all, as human beings, want to watch violence. I don't know, because it's just embedded in the way, I guess, like, I mean...
We're drawn to it.
We're drawn to it in a way, yeah, in a way.
This bloodlust that is ingrained in us from the gladiator times of sitting around in the Colosseum and watching people being eaten by lions and battle to the death. It's the same reason why we sit around and we watch boxing or we watch MMA or... Hockey, all football in some ways, They're violent physical sports where you can get some catharsis out of seeing somebody beating the hell out of somebody else. Or being tackled to the ground or what have you.
Yeah, but at least when we're watching the film, we're watching it in the context of a really safe environment where it's like a coaster in a way. We are experiencing the horrors and the dangers of humankind, but we're not technically taking a part of it or, being affected by it. It's safe. I mean, we watch it in a safe environment.
It is.
It's so far-fetched. I mean, I think that's the appeal. As I said before, that's the appeal of Tarantino. He takes these really, like, excessively graphic scenes and makes them so far-fetched. Mm-hmm. He really took what was this really tragic happening in, the history of Los Angeles and turned it into more of like a fantasy, like, fantasy-like movie where, like, I mean, you don't feel guilty for watching it. I mean, because it depicts things in a more lighter tone.
It was,
You
and
don't
it
feel
was
guilty.
a love letter to old
It
Hollywood.
really is, yeah.
And 1969 Los Angeles, the place that he grew up in as a kid, with all the radio playing such a big part in the background, the music,
yeah.
great soundtrack, by the way. That California Dreamin' song, I had to download that one after I got home.
Just driving around Sunset, just listening to that music, man.
It's just, and it's, it signifies the end of an era, and it
really was, yeah.
This is definitely probably one of my more favorite of his films. I didn't care for the Kill Bill films.
Blasphemy.
I know. Sorry. My favorite Tarantino film still remains Jackie Brown. Love Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Great flick.
Saw it recently, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Definitely hit it out the park. And who knows how many more films he's going to make. I know he said he's only got one more in him. Some people saying it's going to be a Star Trek film. Some people saying it's going to be a horror film.
I would love to see a horror movie by Tarantino.
Yeah.
Speaking of horror films, that scene at Spahn Ranch where you see Brad Pitt going to go check out George Spahn to see if he's actually alive or dead.
Yeah.
A lot of people said it was the closest that Tarantino has gotten to directing a horror film before, and a lot of people pointed out that was a really good scene.
Very suspenseful, yeah.
It was really good. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the soundtrack, the little music that they're playing in the background when Brad Pitt's going up to the door is actually an unreleased Bernard Herrmann score from the Alfred Hitchcock film Torn Curtain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool, and it was a really good score that he used right there too. So just the attention to detail, not only in set, lighting, music, casting, just made it a really great film. Of course, as I mentioned, I do have my criticisms about it, but they're definitely not outweighed by
the goods.
The goods. He brought the goods on this one.
Exactly. Oh, one more Easter egg that I think people should know. And this, I learned it when I went to watch it at the New Bev. There's a scene where, like, at the end of the movie where, like, Sharon Tate and her friends are going to go to a Coyote Mexican food, I believe.
Yeah.
And she asks Jay Sebring, like, I mean, what's going on down on the street right there? It's like...
It's the porn...
The porn theater.
Oh, that's the New Bev.
That's the New Bev.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the New Beverly.
Oh, they're having some porn premiere. Oh, they have porn premieres now?
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
That
was the New Bev. Yeah, because it used to be a porn theater.
Yeah, it was a porn theater, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Adult films, yeah.
That was a good Easter egg.
Yeah, it was a good Easter egg. I mean, I did not know that till someone at the New Bev pointed that out. It's like, oh, shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good little tidbit right there.
They changed the seats since 1969?
They did.
They did. They took a whole year to renovate that theater. So
they had the recent renovation. The bathroom's still the same size, though, right?
Dude, nothing of the theater changed. I mean, I don't know if you've been to the New Bev since they opened it.
We have.
What did we go see recently?
What was the last thing you guys saw?
Oh, we went and saw Valley Girl and Virgin Suicides.
Yeah. Nice.
That's what we saw.
I think I saw The Untouchables in January, actually.
I kind of want to go back and I want to watch some of the films that he played last month, which were kind of curating, leading up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I kind of want to watch The Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you gone back and watched any of these old films?
I'm not, no. I mean, Untouchables was the last one I saw. Shit, I just, if you love Tarantino, just check out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Check it out more than once. I'm pretty sure that the more times you watch it, the more you'll get out of it.
The only message I wanted to reiterate is to put Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio together again.
Yes.
Damn.
This time, lots of shirtless scenes. Definitely.
How'd you feel about Brad Pitt on the roof of the house there when he took his shirt off?
That was a very good
I heard
scene.
a lot of people
Scene.
interacting to that.
Favorite scene in the movie.
Even though it apparently his character killed his wife.
Oh yeah, they kind of
We don't know that for sure.
Yeah, we don't
do
know that,
but
we pretty much do know.
it's circumstantial evidence.
We don't know. We're never shown the murder.
She was asking for it. She was egging him on. I'm sorry, folks. And that's why I think a lot of people forgive him. And plus, he's Brad Pitt. So how are you going to be mad at this guy, right?
Exactly. Can't be mad.
So that concludes our podcast for today's episode. I'd like to thank our guest for being here, Mr. Jesus Pinedo. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
Thank you again. I mean, this is something I really wanted to do.
We're going to have you on for more episodes in the future. So,
all right, awesome. Hopefully I can work on my voice a bit better.
No, you're great. Perfect.
Contrast
opposite to mine. Exactly
the
contrast.
In a way,
you
yes.
got the deep one. You got to, play around with it. Estella.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on our show today. Really appreciate it.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I think Estella's like casual moviegoer, the one who we're trying to sell our movies too.
Yeah. Moviegoer.
Yeah.
It's really helpful. So thank you so much for being on the show. We had a great time. Join us next time for the next episode of the Cinephobia podcast.